Hello, namaskar, and welcome to the show. I'm Palki Sharma. Let's get started. It's an epic meltdown in Islamabad. Asim Munir's buddy Donald Trump has betrayed him. Trump's envoy has called Jammu and Kashmir an important part of India, and Islamabad cannot believe it. They're lashing out at Washington and Ambassador Gor. We'll bring you the full story behind this new flashpoint. In West Asia, a massive claim by the Houthis. Have they really killed hundreds of Saudi soldiers? Or is it just wartime bluster? In America, government debt has topped $40 trillion. We'll tell you why governments across the world operate with borrowings. Over in China, the founder of the property firm Evergrande has been jailed for life. 6 years after the crisis, how is China's property sector doing? In the Indo-Pacific, alarm bells are ringing as Trump scales back US alliances. We'll tell you how each country is dealing with this divorce. In the digital world, it's a titanic tussle. YouTube versus Netflix for exclusive content and creators. Meanwhile, humanoid robot companies are heading to the stock market. Is this the long-promised delivery of AI games? And finally, are women across the world paying a motherhood penalty? Left, right, it doesn't matter what their political ideology is, whatever your politics, we'll tell you why you end up paying it. First, the headlines. Oil prices climbed to their highest in a month amid fears of an escalation in West Asia. Brent crude, the global benchmark, is up about 3%, trading at more than $94 a barrel. The spike is a fallout of President Trump's latest threats against Iran. More than 18,000 people have died in Germany and Spain due to the heat wave this year. Most of these were aged over 75. Health authorities say in most cases the heat combined with an existing illness led to the deaths. Bangladesh's lawmakers elect Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir as the president of the country. Alamgir was the ruling BNP Secretary General for about a decade and one of the most prominent opposition voices against Sheikh Hasina's government. China's e-commerce leader Alibaba's profits fall by more than 75%. This comes amid the company's rapid strides in the AI race against America. Its popular Qwen models have pitted Alibaba against OpenAI and Anthropic. But the AI push is eating into the margins as Chinese shoppers cut back on spending. And Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle are moving back to Britain. They will not live in a royal residence and will remain non-working royals. It's been 6 years since they gave up royal duties and left for the United States. Since breaking away, the couple have repeatedly criticized the royal family and the British press. And now on to our segment, the quiz of the day. Our question today is, which is the world's oldest residential university? I'll repeat the question for you. Which is the world's oldest residential university? If you know the answer, start typing on the live stream. We'll bring you the results and the names of the winners towards the end of the show. India-Pakistan tensions are simmering again. This time not on the battlefield, but on the diplomatic stage. Envoys are being summoned, barricades are being destroyed, all amid a high-profile trip by the US ambassador. We told you about this yesterday. US Ambassador Sergio Gor was in Jammu and Kashmir yesterday. While there, he made an important statement. He declared that Jammu and Kashmir was an important part of India. In terms of language, this was a big deal, an apparent change in US policy vis-a-vis Kashmir. Washington has long seen Kashmir as disputed land. They have called for negotiations to settle it. But Ambassador Gor called Kashmir a part of India, an important part of India. As expected, Pakistan had a meltdown. This was their worst nightmare. Army Chief Asim Munir has spent months wooing Donald Trump. He's made Kashmir a rallying call for his de facto rule. And yet in one comment, it all came tumbling down.
Government stance on Kashmir is absolutely clear. It was our jugular vein. It is our jugular vein. We will not forget it. And we will not leave our Kashmiri brethren.
It's a pleasure to be here. As everybody here knows, I'm the U.S. Ambassador to India, and this is an important part of India, and so I'm here visiting for the first time.
So here's what Pakistan did. They summoned a top US diplomat in Islamabad. They handed over an official protest note. Let me quote from their statement. Pakistan strongly condemned and categorically rejected the characterization of Jammu and Kashmir as a part of India. It was highlighted that the irresponsible statement by the US ambassador negated the long-standing and well-documented position of the United States on the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. Strong words there, especially from a vassal to its master. Pakistan is calling Sergio Gor irresponsible. They say his comments were factually incorrect. Maybe Islamabad will respond by taking the US ambassador to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. I'll tell you why they won't. It's a war zone because the locals hate Islamabad. We'll tell you more about the flashpoint, but first, let's look at Ambassador Gor's travels. Today, he flew from Srinagar to Leh. Leh, as you know, is the capital of Ladakh. Again, the symbolism is quite important. Ladakh is where Indian and Chinese troops clashed in 2020, specifically at the Galwan Valley in the east. Some reports claim that Gor would meet the Dalai Lama in Leh. The Tibetan leader is in Ladakh right now. He's there for his extended summer retreat. Yesterday, reports suggested that Gor would meet the Dalai Lama. Last we checked, that meeting has not happened. Tibetan officials say the plan was dropped.
Yesterday, we were told that there is a possible meeting. Our office was not involved, not in the loop in these discussions. And again, last night, I think late last night, and there was a change in program. So it looks like it's not happening.
We don't know why this happened. Maybe the schedule did not match. Maybe Washington did not want to antagonize China. Whatever the reason, there's been no meeting yet. Which brings us back to India and Pakistan. Along with Kashmir, another flashpoint has emerged. A few days ago, Pakistan removed barricades outside the Indian High Commission. It's not clear why, but it certainly was a provocation. So today, India responded. Authorities took bulldozers to the Pakistani High Commission in New Delhi. They removed barricades and traffic posts outside the compound. Most of these were near the visa counters. All of them were taken apart by the local authorities. Now, on paper, the reason is technical. Officials say these structures were unauthorized. But in reality, it's a tit-for-tat move. And things have been building for a while now. We've seen a war of words over the situation in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Islamabad has accused India of stirring the pot. Meanwhile, New Delhi has called for global condemnation. This back and forth has been happening since June 2026. Last week, we saw another flashpoint. India targeted a Pakistan-backed terror group before Independence Day. It's a group called the Shehzad Bhatti Network. This group is backed by the ISI, the Inter-Services Intelligence, which is basically Pakistan's spy agency. India arrested 243 suspects linked to this group. Their plan was to disrupt Independence Day proceedings. Again, Pakistan pushed back. Islamabad called these allegations baseless. Add to that, you've got the Indus water row. India has suspended the water sharing agreement. New Delhi wants Pakistan to stop cross-border terrorism first. Only then will the treaty be revived. This is an issue that Pakistan raises consistently. It doesn't get a lot of coverage here in India, but they raise it almost every week. So you've got multiple flashpoints building together. High Commission troubles, Kashmir, water treaties, terror modules, all unfolding simultaneously. Tomorrow is the Indian Foreign Ministry's press conference. Expect shots to be fired. Is Saudi Arabia under attack? The Houthi rebels of Yemen are making major claims. They say they've carried out 31 attacks on Saudi Arabia. 31 attacks plus 8 maritime strikes. And they say it has left hundreds of Saudis dead. Hundreds of Saudis dead. It's a bold claim, and if true, it suggests a massive escalation. Now, we've told you about the Houthis before. They are an armed group in Yemen. They're supported and funded by Iran. The Houthis control northern Yemen. Now, Yemen, the country, has been a mess for more than a decade. The north is controlled by the Houthis. The south has a different government. And this government, in southern Yemen, is supported by Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia is enemy number one for the Houthis. Last month, they imposed a blockade on the Saudi kingdom. They also began striking targets in the southern parts of Yemen. And the result? Well, this is what the Houthis claim. 10 Saudi warships destroyed, hundreds of Saudi soldiers wounded or killed, 8 Saudi tankers neutralized, 48 oil tankers forced to return, and 2 military landing vessels burnt. This is what the Houthis are claiming. They say this is the kind of damage they've done. Last we checked, Saudi Arabia has not responded, so it's impossible to know the truth. But here's what we do know. The Houthis have concentrated fire on one port city. It's called Mocha on the Red Sea. Mocha is a port in Yemen. More than 90 drones and missiles have been fired at this port. Reports say 16 people have been killed. We haven't seen the Houthis try and take over the port of Mocha, but we know that they're trying to shut it down. Now, this is a key facility for the Yemeni government. It's their only foothold in the sea, and it's coming under attack. Look at the aftermath of the Houthi strikes. Now, Mocha has been shut down, so the Houthis have accomplished that mission. The next question is, what happens from here? By their own admission, they're casting a wide net. The Houthis claim they are attacking all over the place. For a closer look, let's head over to our map room. These are the targets in Saudi Arabia. Yanbu is a city on the Red Sea. It is just north of Jeddah. Najran is located in southwestern Saudi Arabia. As you can see, it's near the Yemen border. Jizan is another port city, again located along the Red Sea. And finally, you have Abha, which is located in southwest Saudi Arabia. All of these are strategic targets. Yanbu is home to an Aramco refinery and a port. Najran too has an Aramco facility. Jizan has a refinery which was shut after the strikes, and Abha is home to a petroleum pipeline. Some of these cities have been hit multiple times. Now we come to the Yemeni targets. The Houthis have been pounding 2 cities in Yemen. We told you about Mocha. The other one is Marib. This is a major oil producing area in Yemen. It's also the government's last urban foothold in the north. So the Houthis are bombing it. At least 6 ballistic missiles have been fired. Some have hit civilian areas in Marib. So you've got 2 stories running in parallel. The first is Yemen's own civil war, which started back in 2014. That's when the Houthis captured the national capital, Sana'a. That's the capital city of Yemen, Sana'a. It remains under Houthi control. In 2022, both sides agreed to a ceasefire. Since then, the front lines have been frozen. Maybe not for long, though. At this rate, we are not far from an all-out war, all-out fighting. So that's the first story at play, the civil war in Yemen. The second story is the wider war. Iran is very much involved in these moves. On paper, Tehran denies this, but a lot of Houthi weaponry and strategy comes from Iran. For instance, this blockade. Iran has already shut the Strait of Hormuz, but they cannot physically shut the Bab el-Mandeb. This is another critical choke point. It's on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula. This strait is around 30 kilometers wide. It connects the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean. Reports say Iran has asked the Houthis to shut the strait, the Bab el-Mandeb on the Red Sea. And we are seeing the impact of that. On Monday, just 19 commercial ships transited the strait. The daily average otherwise was 70. On Monday, it was just 19. Basically, it's a twin blockade. The idea is to keep Arab oil from leaving the region, which means higher prices and more pressure on the United States of America. Speaking of which, let's also take a look at what the US is up to. Overnight, Donald Trump announced a new move. He's calling it the most crushing economic operation ever. Let me quote from what Trump has said. Any country that allows its financial institutions, businesses, airports, or government entities to provide any type of lifeline to Iran will itself face tremendous economic consequences. Oil smuggling, swap lines, cash transfers, exchange houses, ship registries, front companies, it all needs to stop now. This will be an economic D-Day. Full marks for rhetoric. But this raises so many questions. For starters, shouldn't economic pressure come before war? It's common sense. You try your so-called economic D-Day first. If that fails, you try war. But Trump is doing the opposite. Secondly, who's going to take him seriously? Do you think China will stop buying Iranian oil? Or Russia will stop sending weapons? The US does not have the clout or the bandwidth to impose such moves. And finally, what's the message here? Will it be an escalation, will it be talks, or will it be sanctions? Well, whatever it is, Trump will have to choose soon. Iran can keep the blockade for as long as they need, but the US cannot afford endless deployments. Something will have to give, and that something will be the key to ending all conflicts, not just in Hormuz or Iran, but perhaps in Yemen too. America has touched a grim milestone today. Its public debt has hit $40 trillion. It's a record that the US must worry about, because this is the money that the US government owes the world. $40 trillion, it's what economists call gross federal debt. These are loans that the US government has to repay. And a debt this size is a serious burden. It hurts the US in two ways. Number one, it eats into their government budget. Let me tell you how. Now, debt, as you know, is not free. It comes with interest. So on every loan, the US government has to pay an interest. Right now, their interests alone are more than $1 trillion, $1.1 trillion. That's what Washington is spending on interest payments. That's more than the budget of Pentagon. That's the US Department of War. It's their version of a defense ministry. In 2025, the American defense budget was $954 billion, but their interest payments touched $1.1 trillion. That's also more than America's Medicare budget. Medicare basically is the health insurance of the US government. It covers citizens over the age of 65 and younger people with disability. In 2025, the US government paid $988 billion for Medicare. The risk of sounding repetitive, they spent $1.1 trillion on interest. This is money that could have been gainfully utilized on schemes that help people. The high interest costs also impact government spending on projects. When you have a debt this big, you're not just losing money, you're also losing options. You cannot spend liberally on new roads, for instance. You cannot expand infrastructure or services. So that's the first cost. The second cost is your reputation. Let me explain how. A large share of this borrowing comes from overseas. Foreign investors hold nearly 1/3 of all US government debt. Foreign governments park their reserves in American bonds. Private institutions treat them as safe houses because they carry an American sovereign guarantee, a promise that Washington will always pay. And this entire system rests on trust. But over the past year, something has shifted. Foreign appetite for American government debt has been shrinking because Washington keeps issuing more of it. So what happens when investors pull back or are less sure about you? The government has to pay more. They have to promise a better return in exchange for the loan. And that is exactly what's happening right now. A few days ago, the US sold 30-year bonds worth $25 billion. This was routine borrowing, but the interest rate was high. In fact, it was the highest since 2021. To add to the problem, this week America's long-term borrowing rates hit their highest level in nearly 2 decades. Now let me be clear, the system has not failed. Every bond found a buyer and the US can still take out more loans, but the problem is that these loans have become more expensive. And that's the reputation cost of America's relentless borrowing. But high debt is not an American problem alone. Governments all over the world are struggling with it, and many of them are the richest countries on earth. Let me show you the data. This year, the total global debt hit a record. The total global debt is almost $353 trillion. I'll repeat that number for you, $353 trillion. Economists use a special metric for this. It's called debt to GDP. That's a government's borrowing set against the size of its economy. That's how they see which government is the most indebted. And who are the biggest borrowers in the world? America does not sit at the top of that chart. It's Japan at 204%, followed by Singapore at 172%, the Sudan 169%, Bahrain 152%, Italy 138%, Greece 137%, Senegal 132%, and the Maldives 129%. So what explains this trend? Why is debt so high almost everywhere? The first reason is the recent economic shocks, like the pandemic. During the pandemic, governments had no choice but to borrow. They were paying wages, they were supporting businesses and funding healthcare systems, and they were doing all of this when tax earnings had collapsed. So borrowing was the only option. More recently, inflation has become a bigger risk. The growing conflicts have led to shortages. They have forced governments to spend more. At the same time, borrowing has become more expensive too. Investors feel it's more risky to lend right now, so interest rates have gone up. I'm talking about countries like France, Germany, Japan, and the UK. Interest rates there are now at their highest levels since 2008. And now we have the US sitting on a debt pile of $40 trillion. What does it mean for them? Well, this debt was manageable when borrowing was almost free, but now it's not free, so the debt needs to be contained. The problem is, Washington has kept kicking the can down the road. It keeps spending more and borrowing more and leaving the hard choices for later. But $40 trillion is too big a number to keep ignoring. The longer the US waits to deal with it, the more expensive and more painful the fix could become.
5、4、
他们说我不给我钱，我也。
Our next story is about a businessman who used to be Asia's richest. But now this is what he looks like. Standing in a Chinese court in prisoner clothes, surrounded by Chinese police officers. His name is Hui Ka-yan. He is the founder of Evergrande. It's a property giant of China, a company that went bust. And this was the moment Hui received his sentence. He will spend the rest of his life in prison. The sentencing was a mere formality. Hui had pleaded guilty in the month of April. He was charged of embezzlement, fraud, and corporate bribery. And he's not the only one going to jail in this case. Along with him, 50 of Evergrande's executives have been sentenced. This includes his two sons, Zhu Zijian and Zhu Tengyi. In case you've not followed this case, Evergrande was not just another real estate developer in China, it was their biggest. At its peak, Evergrande was worth more than $50 billion. It was also the world's most indebted property developer. This company had more than $300 billion in liabilities. It defaulted on most of these loans and crashed. The crisis began in 2021, or at least it came to light in 2021. By August 2025, Evergrande was delisted from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. The company's value collapsed by 99%. More significantly, buyers in Evergrande properties lost their homes. The developer had some 200,000 housing units, 2 lakh housing units, but the buyers never got them because Evergrande did not build them. And this is what Hui is being punished for. Evergrande collected millions of dollars from buyers for flats that did not exist. Instead of building those flats, the money was channeled into new projects. So when Evergrande fell, it left hundreds of unfinished projects behind. The punishment for this builder is also a message for others in China that property developers will face the law. But it may not help beyond a point, because this sentencing just treats the symptom, not the disease. There is a bigger problem with China's real estate sector. Evergrande collapsed 5 years back, but the sector is yet to recover. In fact, it's shrinking. After Evergrande failed, more than 50 developers defaulted on their debts in China, and more could sink in the coming years. Going by one estimate, 80% of developers and construction firms in China could exit if the industry continues to shrink. You see, Evergrande was not the only one on a borrowing spree. The entire sector was like a giant bubble, one that was artificially blown up by cheap debt. So how did this happen? Time for a backstory. Let's dial back to 1998. For decades, most Chinese people did not buy their homes. They were allocated homes. Housing came from the state through the welfare housing distribution system. Then in 1998, China ended the system. It created a nationwide housing market. For the first time, Chinese people could buy their own homes. In the 90s, 1/3 of China's population lived in towns and cities. Today, it is 2/3. The urban population has grown by 480 million. China's economic boom expanded the middle class, and they all needed homes. For a new middle class, property was one of the few safe investments available. Local governments in China saw an opportunity here. They were sitting on public land, and they could make money by selling some of it. So they encouraged developers. Local governments encouraged developers. The developers borrowed against demand that did not exist. They kept launching projects that they could not yet pay for, and they kept doing it because loans were available easily. In 2019, China's real estate market was worth $52 trillion. This was about twice the size of the American real estate market. The numbers simply did not add up. Again, because they were not being fueled by demand, they were fueled by debt. The collapse of Evergrande ended the boom. It took the entire sector along with it. 5 years later, China has struggled to reverse the slide. This month, they published economic data for July. Investment in property is down by 19%. It's hard to say where the bottom is, but this might get worse before it gets better. There's no easy way out. More developers are likely to fail before the sector starts to recover. US allies are getting a wake-up call, a rude Trumpian wake-up call. For decades, they exported their security to America. They enjoyed the warmth of the US nuclear umbrella, but perhaps not for long. Donald Trump is ditching his allies like there's no tomorrow. And the allies are scrambling to respond. Look at this report. Trump is now seeking loyalty tests from allies. His officials are sending questionnaires to NATO members, and look at the questions they're asking. Has the country aligned with the US approach? Are they willing to allow America to use their bases? Have the countries embraced NATO 3.0, which is basically less US, more Europe? That's NATO 3.0. So these are some of the questions that the US is sending to NATO members. Just imagine the reaction in Europe. Imagine the humiliation and dejection. You put all your eggs in one basket, and now that basket is giving you a questionnaire like you're a school child. And it's not limited to Europe. Look at what Trump is doing in the Indo-Pacific. This week, South Korea and the US were supposed to hold a drill, a massive 10-day exercise. But at the last minute, Trump cut it back. He felt the drills would be hostile to North Korea. So Washington scaled it back. The initial plan was to end the drills on August 27th. Now they will end tomorrow, August 21st. And you know the funniest part? North Korea doesn't even care. Look at what Kim Jong-un's sister has said. She called Trump's decision completely uninteresting. Yet Trump is not backing down. He says he wants to meet Kim later this year.
And I know Kim Jong-un very well, and he's going to be fine. As long as we have a smart president, he's going to be fine. If we have a dumb president, then he's probably not going to be so fine.
Are you expecting to meet with him later this year?
Yeah, I will be.
Well, Kim gave his reply today. He fired 10 short-range ballistic missiles into the sea, and South Korea is worried. Their president has made a crucial declaration. He is demanding wartime control over his military.
To further strengthen our defense capabilities, it is essential to comprehensively enhance our operational capabilities and establish a system for training the personnel needed to achieve this. To this end, we must proceed without disruption, in line with the government's original plan to complete the transfer of wartime operational control within my term in office.
I know this may sound confusing. Doesn't South Korea control its own military? Well, they do, but only during peace. If war breaks out, operational control of the South Korean military goes to America, meaning Washington will command South Korean soldiers. It's an agreement that dates back to 1950. That's when the Korean War happened, a war between North and South Korea. The Americans helped South Korea repel the North, and that gave rise to this strange agreement where the US controls the South Korean army during war. But now Seoul wants to take back control. They want their future in their own hands. Same with Japan. The US and Japan have a deal where American soldiers and ships are stationed in Japan, and in return, the US promises to protect Japan. But with Donald Trump, it's not a given. He's been asking Japan to pay for US protection. Some reports say the US could also reduce its military presence in Japan. They have some 60,000 troops on Japanese soil. They could pull some of them out. Trump sent another signal last week. He ordered an aircraft carrier from the Indo-Pacific to West Asia. It's called the USS George Washington. It's basically a large warship. It is heading to the Arabian Sea to replace another American carrier there. And why is this a big deal? Because once this ship is gone, there will be no American warship in the Indo-Pacific. It's the first time this is happening since 2001, and American allies in the region, those who have depended on America's security cover, are feeling defenseless. So they're striking out on their own. Japan, for instance, is looking at a $57 billion defense budget. $57 billion, that's a record in the country's history. They plan to spend 2% of their GDP on defense. At this rate, Japan will soon become the third largest defense spender in the world, only behind the US and China. And South Korea is doing the same. Their defense budget is $47 billion. That's 8% higher than last year. The Philippines, too, is boosting spending. They, too, have a mutual defense treaty with the United States. The Americans have access to 9 military bases in the Philippines. They also maintain troop presence there. But now the Philippines is building its own muscle. It has set aside more than $5 billion for defense. But will this be enough for these allies? Well, here's what we think on the forecast. Number one, you cannot end decades of dependence overnight. These countries are plugged into the US security umbrella. They share technology, they share bases, they share military doctrines. None of that can be changed overnight. So in the short term, they will continue to lobby the United States. They will continue to try and win over Donald Trump. That's prediction number one. Number two, reducing dependence on the United States will not be enough, certainly not to take on China. So expect these countries to build more partnerships. Not lopsided ones like America, but real, respectful partnerships. Consider India and Japan. Today, the Japanese defense minister was in New Delhi. He's on his maiden trip to India after taking charge. A long joint statement was released. It talks about several far-reaching projects like building warships together. India and Japan building warships together. The plan is to combine Japan's know-how and India's capacity. They also agreed to carry out more drills and also cooperate on building advanced weapons. This could be the future of Indo-Pacific security, maybe not tomorrow, but in the long run. And we've seen the Philippines doing the same. They have a mutual defense pact with the United States, but they're also diversifying. They've already purchased BrahMos cruise missiles from India. They also host Indian warships for joint patrols. Indonesia too is buying the BrahMos. They're also looking to diversify their options. It's a win-win for all sides. They can cut their dependence on the US, they can pool resources to build new platforms, and they can deter China with partnerships. And the Americans? Well, in the short term, their military load may reduce, but in the long term, they will suffer. The US has used its allies to project power across the world. Without them, America will struggle. And this is what Trump gets wrong. He thinks America's allies have been freeloading, but the truth is they have paid a price. That price is pushing American power and policy. For years, Netflix and YouTube existed in different worlds. Netflix was for your shows, your daily dose of binge-worthy content, and YouTube was for casual viewing, news, fun videos, random rabbit holes, and perhaps the only place for your weird questions, like why is your AC making a grunting noise? But of late, that line is disappearing. The two worlds are converging. YouTube and Netflix are fighting for the same people, the same creators, the same audience, and more importantly, the same space in your living room. It's become almost like a cage fight. And now YouTube has delivered its latest blow. It is apparently offering creators millions of dollars just to stay away from Netflix. Millions of dollars to not work with Netflix. So what exactly is YouTube's strategy here, and who will emerge on top in this battle royale? Let's start with what YouTube is doing. According to Bloomberg, YouTube is talking to select creators. It is offering deals worth millions of dollars, and the pitch is quite simple. If you keep your content on YouTube exclusively, then you will get financial incentives. And that money can come in many ways. Either direct funding programs, aka YouTube gives you the cash, or a cut of a major brand deal. YouTube gets the deals, you get the cuts. But with this dangling carrot comes a stick. The creators will have to put their videos only on YouTube exclusively, no other platform. If you don't abide by that, you will be ghosted. You might lose some access to promotional support, even brand opportunities. You could be overlooked for those. Basically, YouTube is asking for full commitment from creators. The situationship won't work anymore. And this is a shift in their approach. Historically, YouTube's business model has been relatively simple. Creators make the content, YouTube distributes it. Advertisers pay, and that money is split between the platform and the creators. So at no point was YouTube handing giant checks to creators. It was always a platform, not a producer. But now it is changing tack because Netflix has shifted gears. Earlier, Netflix had one strategy, big productions and even bigger budgets. But now they've realized something. Why create the next big celebrity if the internet already has one? Creators come with built-in audiences and their own hit formats. So why build something new when you can just move them to Netflix? So they started something last year. They got shows on Netflix which were already big hits on YouTube. For example, The Hot Ones. It's a YouTube talk show where you're interviewed over a plate of hot wings. Now they're doing a spin-off on Netflix. Then there is The Breakfast Club and the Bill Simmons podcast. Netflix has signed deals with them too. In India, you have comedian Samay Raina's show. It's called India's Got Latent. It is streaming on both YouTube and Netflix. So you get the gist. These creators got famous on YouTube and now Netflix is wooing them. They're happy to be wooed because it comes with big money. YouTube channels make most of their money through ads. Say you're watching a show, you will see ads before, after, or during a video. That's where the money comes in. Some creators also have sponsorships. Now, YouTube lets creators keep the sponsorship money, but it takes a big chunk of the ad money. By most accounts, almost 45% of it. That goes into YouTube's pockets. It's a model that helps YouTube mint $40 billion a year. But Netflix is primarily ad-free. You have to pay money to subscribe it, and it offers creators a lot of money to switch to Netflix. So for creators, it's a great deal. What they lose in ad dollars, they make in onboarding deals. But it's a problem for YouTube. So it's fighting to keep its best creators with bigger checks. Who do you think will win this battle? In 2025, YouTube generated more than $60 billion in revenue. Netflix made about $45.2 billion. That's a difference of roughly $15 billion. And YouTube is not just making more money, it is also winning on the biggest screen in your house. In the first quarter of 2026, YouTube accounted for about 12.7% of US TV viewing. Netflix was behind it. But when it comes to premium, professionally produced entertainment, Netflix is better positioned. Plus, it has a global subscription base. Which brings me back to the question, who wins? If it's about subscribers, the answer is Netflix. If it's about sheer scale, it's YouTube. But if it's about the future of creator-led content, then we say the battle is just beginning. Humanoid robots, are they the next big thing? For years, they were mostly the stuff of science fiction or very expensive tech demos. Now they're turning into a real industry, and China wants to own it. A Chinese humanoid robot maker just had a wild stock market debut. The company is called Unitree. Its shares surged by more than 460% on its first trading day. So are investors betting on the future of robots, or just getting a little too excited about machines that can do martial arts? Our next report tells you what's happening here.
This is Unitree, and apparently, it's having a very good week. The Chinese robotics company went public in Shanghai on Wednesday. Its IPO price? 150.8 yuan a share. By the end of day one, it was 845 yuan. That's a gain of more than 460%. At one point, the stock was up more than 620%. Unitree's market value briefly hit around $66 billion. And that matters because this isn't just a robot company. It's a test of how much investors believe the humanoid robot industry can actually become. Unitree was founded in 2016. It makes robot dogs, humanoid robots, and the hardware that makes them work. Last year, it shipped more than 5,500 humanoid robots. And unlike many startups in this space, it actually made money. Unitree reported a net profit of 278 million yuan in 2025. Its G1 humanoid starts at around $13,500 to $16,000, depending on the configuration. That price is important because China's big advantage in this race isn't just robotics, it's manufacturing. Cheaper components, mass production, supply chains, and the ability to scale fast, and China is already way out in front on volume. One industry estimate puts China's share of global humanoid robot installations in 2025 at more than 80%. The country has also built up a huge cluster of robotics startups. The so-called quote-unquote 7 little dragons of Chinese robotics shipped more than 10,000 robots in 2025, according to industry estimates. And Beijing is pushing hard. The country has an aging population, a shrinking workforce, and a huge manufacturing base to automate. So the calculation is pretty simple. If there are fewer people to do the work, get the robots to do it. And this is where the US-China technology race gets interesting. The US still has a major advantage in the brains of AI. American companies have been leading the generative AI revolution. Tesla is developing Optimus. Amazon is testing humanoids in its warehouses. And Boston Dynamics, owned by South Korea's Hyundai, is bringing its Atlas robot into manufacturing. But China has something the US doesn't have to the same degree: a massive robot manufacturing ecosystem. And Washington is clearly worried. The US has moved to restrict imports of Chinese humanoid and quadruped robots, citing national security and manufacturing concerns. So the robot race is rapidly becoming another front in the US-China tech war. But here's the important caveat. The robot revolution is real. The robot butler revolution? Not quite yet. Today's humanoids are mostly working in controlled environments, factories, warehouses, airports, and other places where the robot does a limited number of tasks. But ask one to walk into your kitchen, find the milk, cook dinner, and not destroy the dishwasher? That's still a few software updates away. Even Unitree's own CEO is tempering the hype. Wang Xingxing says the industry could be heading towards a quote-unquote ChatGPT moment for robots, a point where a machine could enter an unfamiliar environment, take a simple voice or text command, and successfully complete most of the task. His estimate? Maybe 2 to 3 years, or possibly a decade, which is a very robotics industry way of saying, we'll let you know. So, are humanoid robots the future? Probably, but not necessarily the future that the IPO hype suggests. The near-term future looks more like factories, warehouses, logistics, healthcare, and other repetitive or dangerous jobs. The home robot that does everything? That's still the big prize. And it's still the biggest question mark.
Our next story features 3 women. Number 1 is Caroline Leavitt. She is the White House press secretary. As you can imagine, it's a high-pressure job, fielding questions all day from American and world press. It cannot be easy. And she's been at it for more than 1 year now. She has become one of the most prominent faces of the Trump administration. Recently, Caroline Leavitt announced that she was stepping down. She's just had a child. She says with this kind of work, she can't be the best mom she wants to be. So she is stepping down later this month. I have a statement with me. Let me read out a part of it. The truth is, since returning to the White House after the birth of my daughter, I have felt in my heart that I cannot be the best mom my 2 young children deserve while devoting the constant time, energy, and attention required of the White House press secretary. That's the story of Caroline Leavitt. The next one is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, better known as AOC. She is a US Congresswoman. Recently, she announced that she was freezing her eggs. Now, egg freezing is a common medical procedure. As the name suggests, women use it to preserve their eggs, especially when they're young and healthy, because with age, the number and quality of eggs drop. So women choose this procedure so that they can delay their pregnancy, either for personal, career, or medical reasons. AOC is doing it, and she says she's talking about it to normalize the process. She also says she will run for president in 2028, and that by sharing all of this, she is being transparent. Plus, she's drawing attention to the costs involved. Egg freezing is not cheap. It's an expensive procedure. In many countries, it is not covered by insurance. So she is hoping to raise awareness. Our third story is from Japan. Shoko Kawata is a mayor. She is 35 years old and the mayor of Yawata City, located in Japan's Kyoto prefecture. She's the country's youngest elected female mayor, a trailblazer by all accounts. In the month of June, she announced that she would take a maternity leave. She's due to have her child in September, so she has decided to take a 16-week leave. And this led to a meltdown in Japan. Her announcement became a national debate. People asked if elected officials can take time off, especially for childbirth. Now, what do these 3 women have in common? They have all faced backlash. Caroline Leavitt faced it for choosing her children over her job. AOC faced it for choosing her career over having children. And Kawata faced it for taking a break to go have children. It is clear as day, but let me spell it out. No matter what women do, no matter what choices they make about their bodies, they face a backlash. First, they're told to have children. Then they're judged for taking maternity leave. If they return too early after childbirth, they're judged for it. If they return too late or do not return at all, they're judged for it. If they weather the storm and continue to work, they're seen as distracted because of motherhood. And if they decide to delay all of it by freezing their eggs, they face a backlash. So where exactly is the exit? Let me also give you some numbers. These are global numbers from the world over. In 2020, some 113 million women. 113 million women aged 25 to 54 were outside the workforce. 113 million women who had partners and young children, they did not have a paid job. And the number of men in the same situation was just 13 million. Do you see the gap here? 113 million versus 13 million. What does this gap tell you? These women were paying the motherhood penalty because having a child does not magically make a woman less competent or less capable of working, but it dramatically changes some things. It changes the expectations of the workplace and society. If you freeze your eggs, you're accused of prioritizing your career. If you have a baby, you're accused of taking maternity leave. If you don't take leave, you're not being a good mother. So what should you do? There is no good answer for women. The world talks about work-life balance. We say it was never designed around the reality of women's life. The point we are making here is quite simple. If companies, countries, and workplaces genuinely want women to participate equally, they will have to stop making motherhood the price of admission. Let women choose the life they want, and instead of judging that choice, build a system that supports it. Who let the dogs out? It's a question one man in India's Madhya Pradesh is taking too seriously. Recently, there was a public hearing in Khandwa. A man showed up there wearing a full-on dog mask. It was to protest the city's stray dog problem. But this wasn't an anti-dog protest, quite the opposite. The masked man was there to defend the dogs, arguing that they were being defamed. His point, the dogs weren't chasing people because they're evil. They were chasing people because they were hungry. He was raising a crucial issue, but the internet could not get over this costume. Take a look. And now to answer our quiz question, which is the world's oldest residential university? The answer is India's Nalanda University. It was founded in 427 AD. For many in that era, it was almost like an Ivy League institution, home to 9 million books that attracted 10,000 students from across Asia. And below are the people who got it right. If your name is not there, like I say every day, there's a quiz coming up tomorrow. And we're wrapping with some snapshots from around the world. Stunning visuals show India's Vande Bharat train zoom through the world's highest railway bridge. China's low-budget cartoon film steals the spotlight at Beijing's tech conference, and thousands perform a dance ritual near a mountain lake in Bulgaria. That's all that we have for you tonight. Thank you for watching.